Good morning and welcome to today's video, which usually is a pet pairing. Today though, it's not going to be so much a pet pairing as much as probably I'm going to feature a pet sparkly shade, but that will be the extent of it in terms of eyeshadow because I actually have a ton of new products to show you. I'm just going to start doing my makeup and we will continue chatting whilst doing that, taking the Inglot eyeshadow primer. Over the course of the past weekend, I was in a spendy mood, and when I'm in a spendy mood, my hands just literally start itching to buy products that I've had on my wish list. And then I make a wish list, I put everything in my cart, and the only thing I wait for is a sale. And over here we have this store which is called Douglas. We also have another one, but it's irrelevant. Think of it as the Sephora of the Netherlands. And then every now and then they will do, like, I don't know, an evening of 25% off or a 20% off for whatever reason. So I had my little wish list and I was just waiting for them to announce that they have a sale. And then on Sunday, I want to say, I opened the app and I saw 20% off of everything. And I knew that was my cue to get everything on my wish list. You've seen all of it on the thumbnail, so it's really no secret at all. I'm going to grab a little bit of this backlight priming filter to fill up a little bit my pores here and here, because the first product that we're going to try together is the original Chanel Waterfresh Complexion Touch. So I don't know whether you guys remember, last year Chanel launched a product which was the Waterfresh Complexion Touch that had more coverage than the original version of that product. And the original version of that product has been loved by quite a few people, and I was very close to buying it already last year. But then when they announced they were releasing a version of that product with more coverage, so I figured I'm better off purchasing the one that provides a bit more coverage, because I do actually use foundation type products. I'm not a, light skin tint type of gal. But the product that I'm referring to that was released last year is this one. So this is the one that has more coverage to it. So it's like these pigment balls suspended in water. And the original product comes in slightly different packaging, same concept, the little pigment balls suspended in water, but from what I understand, far less coverage. So I'm actually quite curious to try this, because for a lot of people this is really light coverage. And to me, this is borderline like medium heavy coverage. So everyone's understanding of coverage is very different depending on how much they're trying to cover and what their baseline is. My baseline is pretty low. For me, everything that sort of evens out my skin tone is pretty much, cutting it and doing the job. So my standards in that aspect are not super high. So I decided to pick up the original because I was just dying of curiosity to find out for myself how much coverage this really has. So I think the packaging of this, although plastic, is slightly more luxurious looking than the one that came out last year. Now I will say this though, this is extremely travel friendly. I took it on holiday last year with me. It was the perfect amount of coverage. So you can play around with the coverage of this product. That is the beauty of it, that you can really sheer it out or you can build it up. So this is very travel friendly, albeit for the price, not at all luxurious feeling. This is slightly more luxurious feeling, even though it is plastic. I picked up mine in the shade Light. These don't really come in a variety of different colors, I think mostly because of how extremely sheer the coverage is, so you can get away with quite a few different shades. But the concept is the same. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to only apply this now on my face, and then depending on how much coverage this provides, and if I feel like I really need to cover up a bit more here and there, I might actually still go in with my foundation and treat this more as a primer. But I'm just very curious how this works on its own. So I'm just going to squirt out a little bit on the back of my hand here. As you can see, quite liquidy because we have the little balls suspended in water. And what I will usually do with the more pigmented counterpart is I will squeeze it out like this, and then I will take my fusion brush from Sonia G and I will just start applying it to my face with little swirly motions like this, because the idea is that you have to break up those pigment balls. And this one has a very cooling sensation. I will have to go in with another squirt because of how, liquid the product is, and a brush like this basically soaks up a bunch of that, so maybe I should just break up the balls a bit earlier. I think in the depths of summer, this is going to be like a really pleasant sensation, you know, when it's really hot outside and you just want something to like slightly refresh your face. This actually feels quite pleasant. But let me work it into the skin and then take a deep look at what I feel like this is doing in terms of coverage and in terms of feel on the skin. I can see a tiny bit of pigment because when I break down the balls, I can see that this has a relatively light color to it. Okay, in terms of finish, this has a very natural finish. I don't find it to be overly luminous or too mattifying. It's just something that goes on your skin quite naturally and just provides a little like layer of hydration without really being tacky. In terms of coverage, it is exactly what people say. There is a hint of coverage, but not much more than that. So I think for a lot of people this is literally going to be nothing on your skin. I can feel that there is a little bit of evening out of my skin, and I can feel that there is a little bit of pigmentation going on, and to be honest, I'm just curious how this would wear throughout the day, just completely on its own without any foundation. I don't mind at all showing up to work without actually wearing foundation. It does a little bit of, you know, something for your skin. I feel like my skin looks just a little bit more blurred, just a little bit more perfected. It's a hint of an improvement, but it's not much. So if much is what you're looking for, you're not going to get it with this. All right, let's move on to the next product. I picked up another concealer. I picked up this concealer off of recommendation of Charlotte Holdcroft. Actually, this is one of the products that I picked up based on her recommendation, and the reason I picked this up is because she considers this to be quite a hydrating concealer. This is the Dior Forever Skin Correct. I got mine in the shade 1N. So this is not the corresponding concealer that comes in the Backstage formula, because this is the Backstage foundation, and they actually have a concealer that comes in similar looking packaging, like a little like squeezy tube, whereas this is hefty glass packaging. This is really luxurious feeling. And she recently did a video where she talked about top 3 in every category, and she mentioned the Huda concealer and the Pat McGrath together with this concealer as her top 3. And she made it a point to mention that the Huda and the Pat McGrath are quite similar to each other, and this one is the most different in terms of like the texture and the feel on the skin, because it is the most hydrating one out of the 3. And I was immediately attracted like a moth to a flame to the words hydrating, because that Huda concealer does not, I don't want to even make it work at this point. I have to baby that concealer so much to make it work that it's just not worth it for me. So in fact, I've put it up for sale. If I can get rid of it, that would probably be the best. But now my hopes are up for this Dior concealer, and I can't wait to try it. Now, given that I have extremely little going on in terms of coverage on the rest of my face, I'm hoping that this is a relatively low coverage concealer. It comes with a little doe foot, and I usually apply my foundations too, but my concealers from the back of my hand, because that provides me with the most amount of control of how much coverage I'm putting on. And I am going to use a little spongy sponge to apply the concealer, because I also think a sponge is the best option if you want to keep everything very hydrated. So I'm going to just apply a few dots here underneath my eyes. I am not going to give this concealer any crutches, so I haven't applied any of my Auric Glow Lust to hydrate underneath my eyes. I haven't really done anything specific to prep my under eyes even. So I'm just curious how this concealer is going to perform entirely on its own. I think the shade is very nice. It's a very good match for me. I used the 2N in terms of my foundation, and I figured 1N should work perfectly as a like concealer brightening type shade. So far it is blending out. Oh, sorry, maybe I should have zoomed you in for this part. Excuse me. So I blended it out here, and it provided a little bit of coverage. It looks very natural underneath the eyes, and it does not look heavy, it does not look cakey. So far I am quite a fan. Obviously I will have to test this out. I picked up just a little bit more of the back of my hand. Obviously I will have to test this out throughout the day and report in like a monthly roundup and favorites, or just, you know, in a future video of how this concealer behaves throughout the day, because the Huda concealer also doesn't look super bad when I apply it at first, but then throughout the day it starts to look really haggard. This is providing okay coverage for me, I think, because like I said, I am a light coverage kind of gal. I don't mean to like completely cover up everything. I just want a little bit more of a perfected complexion, and this is working out very nicely. So far actually quite comparable to the Bendy Avocado, I think, from First Aid Beauty. It is exactly my type of texture. It's creamy. It doesn't have luminosity when we apply it underneath the eyes, at least not for me, but my under eyes literally like drink up every hydrating component in a concealer that they can find. This is looking very natural, super nice. I think actually it could be quite buildable. Today I'm not going to build it up because my the rest of my face is so, you know, sheer in terms of complexion products that I don't want to look like I have little like white raccoon eyes here. I am going to apply a little bit of my Dior Backstage powder in the shade 2N. Just, you know, because I'm a creature of habit and because I think this powder is going to just extra blur my skin. Let's do some Gucci on the face. I'm going to apply my Gucci bronzer in the shade 03. So the only product that you're not really going to actually see featured in this video, even though I just purchased it and it's new, is the MAC Stack Mascara, which is the other product that I purchased based off of Charlotte's recommendations. I try to be very good and not purchase expensive mascaras because I've never been impressed by an expensive mascara. At least not more than my favorite Kiko Extra Sculpt. But Charlotte's been a real enabler for me in the past year, and Charlotte's lashes always look amazing. Now, granted, the woman could give a masterclass on how to do your mascara to make your eyelashes look like you're wearing falsies. I've tried her technique, but unfortunately that just really doesn't seem to work with my lashes. But her eyelashes always look amazing and she seems to know her mascaras, so I trust her when it comes to mascara. And she mentioned this mascara and a Charlotte Tilbury mascara. Now, I don't know that I want to bother with getting a Charlotte Tilbury mascara, but I would be willing to try the MAC one because MAC is quite easily available to me. This was a really expensive mascara, you guys. I want to say the original price was this were I want to say the original price of this was over 30 euros. So even with the discount, it was still quite expensive. So I have very high hopes for it. But I don't like to have multiple mascaras open at the same time. And I currently have my Kiko Extra Sculpt, I think, halfway through. So I'm not going to open this one before I've almost finished the Kiko one. I'm also not going to demo it for you. By the way, I'm now going to take my Gucci blush in the shade Tender Apricot. I'm also not going to demo it for you because mascaras usually take a few weeks to really settle to their final, you know, formula and texture. So even if I were to demo it for you today, or, you know, whenever it is that I open it, it's still not going to show you the true qualities of the mascara. You have to wait a few weeks, you have to get some experience with it, see how it works best for you. So I think I'm just going to report back in a monthly roundup and empties how this mascara has ended up working for me. I do feel the urge to add a little bit of Pat McGrath to this face, so I'm going to use an oldie but a goodie, my Sublime Skin Highlighter Trio, and I will do what I usually do, which is I literally just mix all the three shades to create sort of like a golden peachy highlighter. I still adore the formula of this highlighter trio. I don't know whether she still offers it or it's been discontinued, but this remains one of my absolute favorite highlighters from Pat. She's released like a gazillion highlighters since, and they are all really good formulas. They are also quite different from each other, but this one remains one of my absolute favorites. They're a bit funkier colors, I will say this, but I find the three shades together basically create the perfect like highlighty shade, and you can mix and match. You can like deepen out or lighten up or make it a bit more gold or make it a bit more pink depending on how you mix the three shades together. So I also like the versatility and the fact that it's in the sweet baked formula. Nothing can beat that. Plus packaging. Come on, that is gorgeous. I'm going to melt all the products on my face using a little bit of Fix Plus here on my sponge. And then we're going to continue to the last product that I picked up, which is, surprise, surprise, another Guerlain Ombres G quad. Well, it's not a surprise, you've already seen it in the thumbnail. Just a few final thoughts on the complexion before we move on to the eye look though. I actually quite like how my face is looking today. I do really like this Waterfresh complexion tint thing, and it is different enough from the original to grant having both because they serve a different purpose. Well, this one is the original. The one that I originally bought, which is the more pigmented version of this, to me serves more like a foundation. I can play around with the coverage, but it is a bit more like a foundation to me. Whereas this really is what it says it is. It is a tint. Concealer, so far, pure love. I love it. It looks really beautiful underneath my eyes. It's not caking up, it's not looking dry, it's just basically looking like my under eyes with a little bit of coverage. I think if I were to wear a foundation, I would probably try to build this up just a little bit more, or maybe apply a little bit of the corrector from Charlotte Tilbury to hide better the darkness and the blueness around my eyes. For example, here there's still a little bit of blueness peeking through, but you know, we're going for a very like light coverage complexion today, so I'm not bothered by that. I like this so far a lot more than the Huda concealer. Alright, and last but not least, like I said, I picked up another Guerlain Ombres G quad. This one is in the shade Exotic Orchid. It looks like this. The reason I picked this up is because it has these lighter browns over here. The gold is very beautiful. It looks like one of my favorite golds from Pat McGrath, which is the one from the Divine Rose 2 palette, but you know, not as probably intense as that one. And there is this like reddish shade over here, which is probably my least favorite out of the four because I'm just not about red shades. Now, the reason I wanted this is two reasons. First of all, I am massively disappointed that the fall collection of Guerlain, which features two limited edition quads with delicious autumnal tones to it, is not in the baked formula, which is the exceptional thing about these eyeshadow palettes, that they are baked and they provide such an interesting variety of textures in just this like small format. None of that you're getting with those, at least by what it seems like. They've been released in Asia, and I've seen videos of people opening those quads and swatching them, and they look like good old mattes and metallics, which is absolutely devastating to me. And frankly, I'm a little bit confused because the promo photos of that fall collection make it seem like these are just in their normal baked formula. So either they're very good at photoshopping their images to look like something they're not, or something very bizarre is going on, and maybe we are going to get those in the baked formula once it is released here in Europe or like the rest of the world. I don't know. But I was so bummed out that I thought, okay, and I'm just going to buy another one from the core line because I adore this formula. I mentioned that I was very much in the danger of becoming a collector of the Guerlain Ombres G quads because I'm so crazy about the formula, and here we are 3 quads later. So the reason I bought Exotic Orchid is because in my favorite Royal Jungle, I've got this beautiful brown shade here. So this one, let me swatch it out for you. A gorgeous brown, but it is a little bit of a smokier shade. So I wanted something that is still in this delicious baked formula, but it is a lighter tone of brown. So I purchased this one, where we have this shade and this shade, which are definitely much lighter tones of brown. Let's swatch them out. Oh, that is so nice. These are also really, really beautiful. Oh, this middle one is so pretty. So I think today I'm going to wear this one. I'm not going to use all the shades in the quad today. I think I'm just going to stick to using this one. And then I think I'm going to put the sparkly gold shade. Ooh, let me actually swatch the other shades of this quad for you as well. So here we've got the red and the gold. And the thing about the red shade is, yesterday I played around mixing it in together with the browns, and it basically gave a bit more of a red hue and a deeper hue to the brown. So I think maybe that's how I'm going to use this red. I'm going to mix it in with these browns. The gold is the only one that is a little bit more sparkly. The rest have more of like a satin finish to them. And unlike the other 2 quads that I own, which are Imperial Moon and Royal Jungle, let me open up Royal Jungle to show you again. This one doesn't really have as many different textures. So Royal Jungle has this matte shade here, which has a very interesting texture. It feels a little bit like a clay eyeshadow. Then you have these 2 shades, which are more similar to maybe this one, with a bit more sparkle to them. and then you have this one, which serves a bit more as a topper. In the new one, in Exotic Orchid, I think all of these three remind me very much, I think all of these actually remind me very much of the Blitz formula from Pat McGrath, but without the steroids. So the Blitz formula from Pat McGrath is still quite punchy. These are more airy, more lightweight, and because of that, a little bit more lightly pigmented, but they can be buildable. But you can see these three here are much more of like a satin, almost matte, and this is the only sparkly one. And what I love doing with them is actually just sprinkling a couple of flecks from an Astro shade from Pat McGrath to make them a little bit more sparkly, but I just really enjoy the texture. So for today's look, I'm going to go in with this one and apply that all over my lid, and I will also blend it out through the crease. I would also like to wear the lighter one at some point, but for today I'm just going to stick to this one, and I'm going to go for like a really nice and sort of like softer look. This actually has a little bit of like orange tones to it. Now that I'm putting it on the eyes, there is quite a little bit of warmth coming from this brown, so it's not a neutral brown, it's definitely a bit of like a peachy orangey type brown. But the texture of these eyeshadows, the way they blend out, how impeccable they look on the eye, just gets me every time. If you want to go for like a really soft eye that literally blurs your eyelids, that's all you need. I'm going to take a little bit of Pat's Intensify stick, and I'm going to pop that in the inner corners of my eyes, because I want to put the gold shade there, and the gold shade is a little bit sparklier, and I want it to show up a little bit sparklier, so I'm going to put a little bit of something of a tackier base so that it shows up the way I want it to show up. And then I am going to take my little Sonia G soft detail brush, what is this called? Soft definer, and pop that gold shade in my inner corners. It's a bit of a deeper gold, so it's not necessarily super brightening on my inner corners, but it is a very beautiful gold. It really, really reminds me of the gold that's in the Divine Rose 2 palette, which is, I think, maybe my favorite shade in that palette. I really love that gold. Oh, you know what? We could actually apply this lighter brown underneath my lower lashes, so that we can also try this shade a little bit. This is a little bit more neutral in tone, I feel like, compared to the deeper one that I put on my lids. So this is the eye before I apply any extra sparkle. These are definitely much more subtle in terms of texture compared to, for example, the brown here from Royal Jungle. This is still slightly more metallic, it has a bit more sparkle to it. These, once you shear them out, almost behave a little bit like mattes. I'm sort of going to keep in the same tonality as everything else that is on my face, and I'm going to grab a tiny bit of Rosefire Nectar, just a few flecks of Rosefire Nectar, and I'm going to apply that here over top of the brown shade. But I'm really trying to use the absolute lightest hand because I want a hint of those sparkles. I don't want Rosefire Nectar to overtake the look, I just want it to elevate the look to a more sparkly place in life. I totally forgot to do my brow. I got so distracted by doing the rest of my makeup that I 100% forgot that brows existed. So I did pop a little bit of my Too Faced laminating brow wax off camera, and I finished off the look also like super low-key with a very like fresh sheer E-type product. So I'm wearing Spirited Away from the luxuriously loosened lipstick line from Lisa Eldridge, which I think sort of like perfectly completes this look. I very much enjoyed pretty much all the products that I tried today. The complexion looks great, I really like it. The more it has settled onto my skin, the more perfected my skin is looking. Obviously there's a combination there of the Chanel product together with the powder and a little bit of like the blurring product that I put from Becca here, but honestly overall I think my complexion is looking really, really nice. The Dior concealer so far, Chef's Kiss, I love it, I will update. The Guerlain Quad, I know this formula, I love this formula, I adore the texture of these eyeshadows. I wish the two browns were just a little bit more sparkly like the ones in Royal Jungle, so these two over here. But with that said, I love these textures so much, and I think they work so well with like the Astral type shades from Pat McGrath Labs that I don't mind at all to pop a few sparkles from Pat McGrath shades if I want a little bit of sparkle. And I just really love how everything worked out together. Let me know what you thought about this look. Do you own any of these products? Are they some of your favorites? What do you think about them? Let's chat about it in the comment section below. I have to apologize, I don't think you're going to get a pet pairing this week because I still have 2 more videos to film for my week of Natasha Denona before we go into that. So maybe towards next week at some point there will be another pet pairing, and obviously tomorrow I'm going to be getting me some of those cream blushes and the quad. Anywho, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!